This is Cuban85, signing on as your narrator for the Big Stick, a video series dedicated to World of Warships. Today's episode is about anti-air, or AA, also known as ACAC, also known as flak. AA, as I will call it throughout this video, should be self-explanatory. If not, it's simply guns that are capable of shooting at planes. In World of Warships, as you hit tier 5 and up, you'll encounter plenty of planes. However, here's a pro tip. If you plan to whack any of those flying suckers before tier 6, good luck. Chances are, you won't hit a darn thing. From tier 1 to tier 5, the AA rating is pitifully low, as you can see within the game. And in many cases, you won't see a single plane in the tier 1 to tier 3 game. Unless, of course, you are the unfortunate victim who gets dragged into a higher tier game. If you want to learn the AA rating of your ship, you can simply examine the stats at the port with the ship of your choice. On the right and underneath your captain, you'll see a bunch of numbers. The stat for our concern is the AA guns. See this pathetic number? See how low this AA rating is? It's the game's way of telling you that you can't hit a fly, even if it's right in front of you, as it gives you the bird. Of course, this doesn't mean it is impossible to take out a plane below tier 5. It just means the chances are pretty low. Don't be frustrated about the lack of AA early on, since it's actually historically accurate, as World War I and some interwar period ships had a few scattered machine guns and maybe one or two dual purpose guns. These guns also lack the range, the rate of fire, specialized ammunition, and fire control systems that were more utilized in World War II. By the time you reach tier 6, you will see more common World War II era ships with all these nuts and bolts. As you expect in the game, the further along in the tier, the higher the AA rating. Once you do get past tier 5, things get a lot more interesting. In previous tiers, in-game tactics and strategies were dictated by being in the front lines, firing your guns and torpedoes, and the occasional ramming. At tier 6, you no longer have to put yourself up front into the danger zone. Rather than slugging it out with the opposing side up front, you can stay in the back and not fire a single shell, while still helping your team. Of course, this doesn't mean you should sit still from where you spawn and wait for planes to come your way. Instead, you should fall behind, lead, or sail right beside a friendly ship. You are basically serving as an escort ship. It may not sound exciting, but believe me, if you want to swap flies, this is the second most efficient way of doing it, next to parking your ship beside an enemy carrier.
Oh, there he is.
I said get off! I said get off!
Oh, he's dead.
You are.
Now, you don't want to escort just any ship. There are two classes you shouldn't bother escorting, the destroyers and cruisers. Chances are, a carrier isn't going to expend its time and planes on a little destroyer, since the chance of hitting one with bombs or torpedoes is very low due to its small profile and its speed. It's a good bet that carriers will also avoid cruisers. Cruisers are armed to the teeth with AA. They have the highest AA rating of all the classes, and they have an active skill that more or less guarantees the complete decimation of a squad of planes.
Say hello to my little friend.
Two classes that enemy carriers will most likely target are carriers and battleships. These two classes are often slower and larger than the other two classes. Thus, they make for an easier target for approaching planes. So if your team consists of any of these classes of ships, escort those. However, it is important to note that carriers can protect themselves from enemy aircraft with their own fighters, as long as it's a fair one-on-one fight. In other words, if the planes are equal in tier and the number of carriers are the same on both sides, you don't really have to escort a carrier. Though escorting ships may be a great way to rake in the plane kills, it can be a detriment to the team. The more ships on the defense, the fewer the ships on the offense. Unless your entire team knows how to make a rock solid carrier battle group formation, which is doubtful at best, be sure to bring the fight to the enemy wherever it is needed. Now, the next question is proximity. How close do you want to be to the ship you are escorting? You sure as hell do not want to glue yourself onto it, else you'll be eating all the bombs, shells, and torpedoes heading straight for it.
Zaxxy's shield!
Unhand me!
You also do not want to be too far out. If you do, your AA guns will not take the advantage when the enemy planes are at their most vulnerable. This is whenever the opposing CV player attempts to coordinate his attack above the target you are defending. Ideally, you want to give yourself enough room to maneuver in order to avoid dive bombers, assuming the enemy carrier is disgruntled enough to single you out, or torpedoes, which you may find yourself in front of a wave of pain if you're not paying attention. My best guess is 2.5 kilometers between your ship and the ship you're defending, give or take a kilometer. Next in line in this discussion are the in-game short keys relevant to AA. By default, your AA will fire at approaching enemy planes automatically. If you wish to manually target a specific plane or squad of planes, no, not exactly. Manual firing in this case is holding control and left clicking on the target. Once you do this, all your AA guns will concentrate fire on that target.
Concentrate all fire on that superstar destroyer!
Keep in mind, regardless if you are set up for automatic or manual AA, you will be spotted. If you have no desire to be seen by enemy aircraft or ships for that matter, you can turn off your AA by pressing the P key. Your AA will not fire until you press the same short key again. Now, an important thing to pick up as soon as possible is the ability to prioritize your targets. As you should be well aware by now, there are different kinds of planes: scouts, fighters, dive bombers, and torpedo bombers. Which target do you shoot down first? Though I'd love to spend an entire 2 minutes explaining this, there's a list made by Xavier Nova that sums it up quite nicely. I'll give you 20 seconds to read it. Need more time? Okay, 10 more seconds. Hit it. As previously shown, the class of ship and its tier greatly determines your AA rating. However, the commander's skill also plays a significant role. A number of skills, as shown on the skill tree, increases the range of your AA. These skills are far more effective on ships with an already high default AA rating. The higher the rating, the more points added based on the percentage. Cruisers benefit greatly from these skills, due in large part to their active skill as well as their already high AA rating. One skill in particular, the defensive fire, increases the effectiveness and reduces the cooldown of the cruiser's active skill. Modules can also be applied to your ship to increase AA range and survivability. Because of this, many will argue that cruisers are the best ships for AA. And they're right. However, this doesn't mean you shouldn't add these skills to your destroyer, battleship, or carrier. If these skills fit your playstyle, regardless of what ship you're in, then by all means add them to your commander. That pretty much sums up the current state of AA in World of Warships. I hope you enjoy my very first video tutorial of this game. Remember, this game is still in closed beta, so all of this may change once the game is released. At the very least, this video should provide some idea to those of you who have yet to play the game. Like this video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and leave a comment. This is Cuban85 signing off from the Big Stick.